In the windswept deserts of the ancient Near East, nearly 4,000 years ago, a single man heard a voice. It wasn't a whisper of the wind. It wasn't the words of a king or a priest. It was a call, one that, according to legend, came straight from the divine. He was not royal, not a warrior, not even a prophet, yet, just a man named Abraham. And yet, somehow, this man would become the spiritual ancestor of over 4 billion people. Jews, Christians, and Muslims all look back to him, not as a symbol, but as the founding father, the original believer, the first to walk a path that changed civilization itself. But who was Abraham? A real person? A mythological echo? A cipher for a people finding their voice? To find out, we must travel back, far back, to a time before time. Before borders, before Bibles, before even the idea of one God. This is the journey of Abraham, the man who changed history not by conquering, but by believing. Our story begins in Ur, a city that once rivaled Babylon, filled with towering ziggurats, astronomers, and laws carved in stone. Around 2000 BCE, Ur was a jewel of Sumerian civilization, sophisticated, rich, deeply polytheistic. This was where Avraam was born, into a world of sky gods, fertility idols, and celestial calendars. According to Jewish legend, his father was an idol merchant, but young Avraam wasn't satisfied with the gods of clay. One tale recounts how he smashed his father's statues, declaring, "These cannot be gods. They do not speak. They do not act." This is no minor act of rebellion. In a world where religion was politics and kings ruled by divine right, to reject the gods was to reject the entire order of the universe. Then came the voice, a command: "Go forth from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." He went. No army, no riches, just a promise. And that promise would echo across time. To understand Abraham's revolution, we need to understand the world he left behind. Ancient Mesopotamia didn't lack gods. It had too many. Each city had a patron deity. Each element of life was ruled by its own divine bureaucrat. Abraham introduced something radically different. One God. Not a god of war or harvest or moonlight, but the source of everything, an unseen, indivisible, all-powerful creator. This wasn't just a religious shift. It was philosophical dynamite. It meant morality wasn't local. It was universal. Justice didn't come from kings. It came from God. It leveled the playing field. In the eyes of one God, even a nomad could carry cosmic importance. Abraham's journey took him from Ur to Haran, from Haran to Canaan, and even to Egypt. He traveled hundreds of miles through deserts and danger, guided only by faith in a voice no one else could hear. Then came the covenant. One night, under a sky dusted with stars, Abraham was told that his descendants would be as countless as the heavens. But there was a price. Abraham had to seal this promise with blood. In a ritual lost to time, he split animals in two and walked between them, entering a divine contract. A pact between the mortal and the eternal. This was not mythology. It was political theology. A king and his vassal. Except here, God was the king, and the nomad was the chosen servant. And yet, he had no heir. Abraham's wife Sarah was barren. For decades they waited, prayed, despaired. At one point, Sarah offered her servant Hagar to Abraham, who fathered a son, Ishmael. But God insisted Sarah herself would bear the promised heir. And at the age of 90, she did. Isaac was born. The birth of Isaac wasn't just a miracle. It was a reversal of nature, a symbol that this God operated by different rules, that what seemed impossible could, under divine command, become reality. But then came the ultimate test. Imagine it, a father, aged and weathered, told to sacrifice the son he waited a century to hold. They walk for 3 days. The boy carries the wood. The father carries the knife. This scene, known as the Akedah in Jewish tradition and commemorated in Islam as the near sacrifice of Ishmael, is more than just a story. It is the crucible of faith. Did Abraham pass by obeying? Or was the test meant to show that faith should not cost innocent life? At the last moment, the knife is stopped. A ram appears. The boy lives. But the lesson? That faith isn't comfort, it's tension. The balance between surrender and moral clarity, between obedience and inner conviction. Abraham fathered 2 sons, Ishmael and Isaac. From them, 2 civilizations would emerge. Through Ishmael, the Arab peoples and the Islamic tradition. Through Isaac, the Israelites and the Jewish tradition, from which Christianity also springs. It's no coincidence that all 3 Abrahamic religions are centered around covenant, sacrifice, and divine law. Abraham is the shared ancestor, a figure who unites worlds often at odds. And maybe that's the greatest irony, that the man who spawned religions now often invoked in conflict was a unifier, a bridge. Was Abraham real? Archaeology hasn't found a tomb or a carving labeled Abraham, but it has found the world he could have walked, cities like Ur and Haran, practices like blood covenants, tribal migrations, treaties made under stars. Some scholars argue Abraham is a composite figure, the symbolic memory of multiple patriarchs woven into one. Others suggest his story was preserved orally for centuries before being written down in Genesis. But as with all ancient figures, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And even if Abraham was a myth, what a myth to live by. Today, the name Abraham is whispered in millions of daily prayers. His story is told on all continents in hundreds of languages. Children are named after him. Wars are fought in his shadow. Peace is brokered in his name. Yet the power of Abraham isn't in what he built. It's in what he left behind, a story of a man who walked into the unknown, driven by nothing but belief. No map, no army, just faith. Abraham didn't invent monotheism, but he embodied it. He didn't build temples, but he inspired them. He didn't write scripture, but scripture was written because of him. He is the eternal pilgrim, the first believer, the father of nations. In a world divided by belief, Abraham reminds us that at the origin of our stories stands one man. Alone in the desert, listening to a voice. What did he hear? Maybe the same thing we all seek: meaning, connection, a reason to keep walking. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. So next time you gaze at the night sky, think of Abraham, not because he saw the stars, but because he believed there was something beyond them. If this journey spoke to you, don't let it fade. Only 1% of viewers ever hit subscribe. Be the 1%. Join the 5 Minutes of Culture community and help us bring lost stories back to life. Because the past isn't dead, it's just waiting to be heard.